guys, I really don't know how I'm gonna be using this YouTube channel, but I just thought I could show you like how I screw around with systems and like my hobbies of cracking passwords and you know, practicing some cool exploits and network service exploitations and WAP analysis, etc. That's going to be the workflow of this channel. I won't make like really huge YouTube videos, but I will make sure that they're like 6 to 7 minutes long because I know like it's not that uh deep where I go into like I'm not teaching you guys like fundamentals like um computer networks or like how basically web app fundamentals like that. So today we're just going to be breaking into my Ubuntu machine. Sorry for the creepy thumbnail because I know I'm just going to put some weird thumbnail. So we can start off actually by entering into Kali Linux, which is a cool open source tool. And we have our Ubuntu server also running as well. So I'm sorry for this weird layout. Is that it's just a little bit of a new computer, so kind of like still adjusting to it. I'm just going to be switching, I think, mostly. But yeah, so we will start off with something we call in cybersecurity. So usually follow a methodology called the cyber kill chain methodology. It usually consists of reconnaissance, weaponization, you deliver, exploit, install, you command and control, and then you put actions and objectives. So basically, reconnaissance basically means collecting information about the victim of the server or like whatever service you want to exploit. Weaponization is like after finding out information, I find out the vulnerabilities, and then obviously exploitation and installation is basically exploiting that it was a success, my exploit was a success based on my vulnerability. And then I install. I kind of like maintain root access and etc., which goes to command and control. I go to the stage of privilege escalation where I like dump passwords and start hacking internally as well. And then actions on objectives, which is just why you hacked the machine in the first place, which is like, is it to steal passwords or like open up another port for another backdoor, etc. So Nmap's going to help us in that. So Nmap, what it does is that it helps us perform reconnaissance, and it's also called a network mapper, right? So I'm going to be using equivalent. So basically, SC is usually for script scans, and also SV because I want to see the versions it's running so that I can grab an exploit from there. So I'm going to be using SC. Sweet. Yeah, that's it. We're done with the Nmap scan. Um, so basically you can see that it's like a SSH, there's SMP as well. So I'm just going to be searching for these versions on SearchBlock. It's just like kind of like a database search if there are any. So this is not like SMBFTPD. I don't think it's not safe. Like it won't work. I'm not going to get a remote shell access. But it is running SSH though. So if it's running SSH, which is basically it's going to be running OpenSSH, which is we might be able to get, yeah, we might be able to get through logins. So I'm just going to see if an SSH server exists. Okay, there we go. It does exist a server. So I'm just going to brute force it using Hydra. If it's right. So I'm just gonna not going to use MSF. I don't know. It's just for me scrolling around again. Uh, so yeah. So I've set a time of 4, right? So basically Hydra is a brute forcer. So it's going to take the username as server, and then it's going to try for all of these passwords. Oh, okay. We got a hit. So it's root. Okay. So this is like a very old machine, so I don't know uh when I kind of like set the passwords and everything. I think it was like this is like I know this is 13.15. I think it was like 2, 3 months ago. So you could see, so I used the raw Q TXT and I told them, okay, you're gonna brute force this. Because when we used the SSH command, we were able to see it as a login. So what I'm going to do now is I can actually log in to the server now. And give me a second. And if I type root, we have access. So now what I'm going to do is the next step is to check if I have privilege escalation. So can I perform, or do I have root privileges, right? Yes, and there we go. We have root privileges access. So hackers just don't stop at this, right? So if I type sudo su, I'm able to go into a root mode and I can see everything. So if I'm going to go, let's say, to some certain locations like Etsy, such, let's say, password, or that's just a shadow. Okay, so I'm just going to go to Etsy first. We'll see what goes. Yeah, as you can see, I'm just going to say nano. I'm just going to say cat password. Okay, so you can see all the passwords that come along with this. So it's kind of scary because, and then I can even use other ways like finding permissions and etc., which is again a little bit risky because it kind of leads a lot. So I can even say cat shadow as well, which also gives us hashes which are available, right? So you can see server, there's a password here, so I can crack it. It is even Snort as well, but there are not a lot of dependencies which require a certain level of authentication. So that is pretty unsafe. So I'm going to be teaching you guys how you can prevent this. So this is usually a job of a SOC analyst. But yeah, so I'm going to be teaching you guys how you can do this. So we're going to head over to our Ubuntu server machine. Can flex systems be attacked? We just saw that, okay, hey, it's pretty dangerous. So how can we like prevent this? So one way is to implement intrusion detection systems, which companies usually use to like detect if someone has attacked a certain server or etc. This detections can help the as like let's say like a professional to make sure what kind of steps to be taken, or okay, any other stricter detection rules, or what part are they attacking of. So in order to avoid like business impact, you can say like loss of funds or loss of trust over customers, because let's say you get in, I'm going to brute force, I'm going to catch all of these passwords now, catch all of these passwords, and then I'm going to leak it onto the internet, and there's like sensitive customer information which is out on the web now. So that can lead to indirect loss of trust, which can lead to loss of funds as well for the company. So one way to do this is through Snort. So Snort is like this really cool tool which you guys can use. I think so in Linux especially, um, there's usually stored in the log folder. So if I go, if I just show you guys nano dot log, so there's like a lot of my activity which is going on. So I have listeners and all of this. So it's all of the activity basically of like me screwing around. So you can see like there are a lot of brute force attacks. So you can see like failed brute forces, uh, right on 192.168.109.137. So there is a way which is like stored, or even at least mentioned in your in these logs. So how I can prevent this is actually through this command called snort. So snort helps us to like so how we can use snort is, let's say slash Etsy, I'm gonna say cd snort, right? So cd snort, and there is obviously rules. So you have to manually input these rules because these are local rules. So rules, right? So I've already added the rules like for you guys. So I'm going to be detecting basically two attacks. So one, we're going to be performing the SSH brute force, right? And another is a possible, like, let's do an nmap scan or a ping scan. And there's SMB enumeration attempt, which we can check as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start Snort. I think I just did this. Let me just go back. I think I did this. Okay. So as we've seen fail to ban as well. Fail to ban is this really cool IPS types, which helps us ban an IP address. Let's say it's like 5 times suspicious. So it's great. It's this concept called rate limiting, which we will be covering a little bit later. So so it's a great way. So that's why brute forces are not usually performed and hackers stick to the usual phishing. So what this command is basically doing is, so the hyphen I is basically my user interface, and the A is basically the output mode. So I want it on my terminal console. It's in quiet mode, and I'm going to refer to the configuration file. Simple, right? So it's not as now running. So if I go back to my Kali machine, and let's say I rerun the Hydra command, which we have done, right? I'm going to run this again, right? So it's going to start trying, and we're going to get like an SSH brute force attempt. Let's say because I specified the port as 22, right? So now we should detect SSH brute force attempt, right? And it's able to get the password in this request itself, right? So it's going to be using the same IP but different ports altogether, but it's still coming onto the 22 port. So I'm just state that that was for SSH. So now let's do a simple nmap scan on this again. So if you notice, you're going to get like a lot of saying it's going to, okay, the scan start first though. Okay. Yeah, there you go. So, and I'm pinging and you can see that, so you can see that there's a lot of nmap scans, possible nmap scan, and it's kind of like using SMB to enumerate, right? So even an SSH voice, which is again like a false positive, but yeah. So it's trying to attempt SMB enumeration, which is one of the scripts. So we have used SC, which is going to use all the scripts by default. So if let's say I want to actually SMB enumerate this. So if I click on this and let's say the password is the same, I could get the shares which I could use to access the computer, right? So the protocol is not, so if I go a little down, I can see an SMB enumeration, which is separate, right? So that's actually how usually in general how they prevent or even detect attacks, which is through Snort, which is again a great tool, which we'll also be learning about fail to ban, which we'll be learning when we are trying to exploit networks. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys liked the first video. Sorry if this video was a little bit long because it's kind of like my first time. So see you guys. Thank you so much.